me again. Before we continue today's program in a more casual and relaxed surrounding, last presentation is an interview with Croatian up-and-coming Twitch streamers and gamers. This interview will look like I ask questions and they are basically replying to those questions. Before we start, I want to actually introduce you to our Twitch streamers. Rea Drvar or Patkakojapluta. This is the name that you can find her by online. Next is Kandrač or StoneAgeHero. Matea Koreny or NeonBlackHeartAttack. And Bruno Žigić or SirBaronSand. Okay, so first question that I think it's kind of an obvious one, but I just wanted to know, where did you come up with your aliases or those names that I introduced you with?
Okay, so we're going to start from here. Or okay, so my name is Patkakojapluta, which means duck that floats. It's like a long story. It started when I was really, really young. I lived with my grandfather, who always played chess, and he always said, "Fuck the duck," and I was obsessed with ducks because of it, because it was so funny for me that he says like "Jebate patak." And it started from there, and then when I was in high school, I had a thing that I had to go for my art class to Rea Drvar to see some kind of paintings or something, and there was a picture of a duck, and it was just floating, and it was funny for me, I don't know why, and like it became manic at that moment. I was like, oh my god, ducks float. Like they don't have to keep ground on the level of like water, they just float, they can sleep just by playing, while we like retarded humans just like fall down if we don't, okay, if we relax really, really good, but mostly we're not so relaxed. So I was really fascinated with the duck's commonness, and it became for everything. It's like my private email, and I started using it also for my email for my faculty, and it just stayed like that, and I just started using it as an alias. Like that's about it.
Thanks. So I'm StoneAgeHero, and I was a big forum guy in the early 2000s. Like I was a moderator on many different boards, and I used the nickname Captain Caveman because I was a huge Hanna-Barbera animation fan at the time, and after like a year or two of using that handle, around like end of 2005, I tried to make an account on another forum, and it was already taken. I was like, damn, I need a name, I need something, and then I was just like going through combinations of words that can be abbreviated, because that's important in forum speak, because nobody's gonna type out your whole name if it's like 5 words or something. So I needed something that has like multiple first letters, so people can just like type SAH or whatever. And I just tried combinations till I found StoneAgeHero, and here it is. 16 years later, still using it, so that's about it, yeah. Here you go.
Thank you, StoneAgeHero. Okay, so my Twitch handle is NeonBlackHeartAttack, and it came to be because I was always like a huge My Chemical Romance fan, and they have like, yeah, it's a bit more simple than you guys' stories. I was a very edgy teen, so like they had a song which had a lyric like something like "You're a heart attack in black haired eye," and I was like, holy heck, that's so cool. And somewhere I came up with the neon as well, so I put it all together, and there we go. That's my Twitch channel now.
Thank you. So this is Sand. I picked my name when I was starting World of Warcraft, because before that I was using different names that were like mostly characters I liked, but I realized like this is my first serious game and I have to pick a serious name that will stay with me. So I picked Sand, and I was like, yeah, I like characters that use sand powers, Pokemon that use sand attacks, and everything related to it, like from Marvel, from anime. Well, yeah, the sand is good, but like I'm gonna be a druid. What do druids do? Yeah, they have some earth powers that works. And then I realized, yeah, me and my brother used blood as like a common part in our name. So my first name was Sand Blood, and that was like the name I went by for almost 7 years, 8 years. And while I was in a guild, we gave each other titles at some point. I don't remember the actual purpose, but one of my friends was really like hyped up for it. So I got like the title of Baron at some point. So I was like BaronSand, and like that sounded cool. Like, yeah, I wanted a royal title, that's not fine. But at some point we were just stacking up titles, and while we stacked up titles, I think I had like Captain SirBaronSand. I don't want that. I don't. But SirBaronSand, that kind of works. That's something fine. I never realized people will shorten it to SirBS, but okay. And you know, it's fine. It works with me. And I have like other names that I used later for some games, but mostly it is SirBaronSand on like everything I use actively. And that's basically, you know, the source and the change. Even though I almost did change it to just BaronSand a year ago, but yeah, that's a different issue. So yeah, next question.
Those are really interesting stories and funny ones. Just that Sir, and it sounds way more professional, I guess, right? Okay, so after all you've said, I feel like video games are something that you've been playing for a long time now, right? But what is the first video game you have ever played? Can you tell me something about your first ever gaming experience? Who got you into video games at all? And just your general gaming experience when you were younger.
Should I start? Okay. My first gaming experience was the Nintendo Entertainment System. I don't know the exact first game, but it was either City Connect, a game which you're like a car that's running from police cars and collecting some coins on multiple levels. Super Mario Brothers 2, I think, or that weird game with tanks that a lot of people play, but I don't know the actual
Tank
name.
Racer?
What?
Is it Tank Racer?
No, it's not Tank Racer.
Okay.
It's basically a 2D top-down tank game. Where it's just tanks?
Thanks.
It's
Yeah.
just tanks, yeah. Like, I asked a lot of people, but no one was sure what the name is. Yes, thanks. But yeah, like, those are the first games. I don't know which one is the exact first, because I was like at least 4, because my dad just owned the console, and like, he decided it's time for me to play the thing. I was watching him play for a while. Yeah, I don't know. I replayed the City Connect recently because on the Switch they made it available, but haven't played the others since, basically. Here you go, Mia.
Thank you. Okay, for me, it was my dad as well who introduced me to the world of video games. He is a computer science teacher, so like ever since I can remember, we had a lot of like PCs at home, and he was always doing something on them. And like my first game, I think, was Doom 2000, which he was also playing, and I was like, oh my god, what's that? And he showed me how to play it. I was like 4 or 5 years old, I'm not sure. So yeah, I got really into it. I don't even remember what the game was about now, but I know that it was so epic to me. Other games other than Dune were like Super Frog and Jazz Jackrabbit, but I think I played that way later. But yeah, that's it for me.
Nice, so you have really cool dads.
Well, sadly, my dad didn't give me video games when I was a kid. My first gaming experience was actually at a friend's house while we were like, I think 3 years old or something. He had like a black and white PC in his room that was like an old PC from his dad, and we used to play Prince of Persia, like the original Prince of Persia game, a lot. And the first like personal gaming experience is when I got the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, from my from my cousin. He just gave it to me because he was like too old for games, which I don't understand really. And there I played Super Mario Brothers 3 a lot, and I still love Mario games. Like, I 100% it all in the stream, so I really love the games. So yeah, it was Mario, I guess. Here you go.
So yeah, my first experience with gaming, I really don't know. I just remember that I started playing pretty young. And the first game that I remember like playing it for the whole game through is also Prince of Persia. And it was also always, it looks like an individual game you play. So you play yourself on a console and it's a single player game. But it was always for me a type of social experience because like I couldn't turn on like the computer or shit like my father like taught me stuff, also taught me how to use things. And even though my father wasn't there, I was always with someone, with my brother, because there weren't a lot of kids who had computers or who could play games. So I got into games not like an individual, but always like a kind of social experience. The same you said, you went to your friend's place and you played together a single player game.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that we did like a lot when we were kids. It was always a social thing, even though it's even you didn't have to like be at the same place at the moment of playing, but it was a thing we like. I remember the first game that I like had. You wouldn't like keep it to yourself. You would like bring it to school and then share it with another person. You would just like sit and talk about it. But yeah, I replayed it. It's funny. Yeah, I replayed it while I was during my faculty study because I did a research on the game connected with Orientalism because I wanted to see how the otherness is shown in Prince of Persia, and a game that I played as a kid. I didn't see any problematic, but it was a way that you can see through the game how the other is portrayed through a certain media that was a Western type of media, which for me is also very interesting, and also the role of woman and how the woman is shaped in the game is a pretty interesting thing. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop talking.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I'm glad you mentioned that not everyone has had a chance to play video games at home back then, especially at the early 2000s. I myself have never played video games. Actually, that's a lie. I have played some, but I know that in the early 2000s there were like game rooms where you could go and basically pay for play, right? Okay, so those are really nice stories that you're telling us. But I wonder, what is your favorite game ever? What is your favorite video game you have ever played, and is it something that everyone likes and it's generally very popular, or is it something that it's your guilty pleasure? Would you change something about that favorite game?
Okay, sorry. I don't have a favorite game. I can't explain what type of games I like. Like I like games that are based on a really driven narrative where you can immerse yourself a lot. I can talk about like a game as Witcher that was made together with a huge theme of psychology. It was a holistic making of the game where they had a lot of different teams. They worked a lot on the game and on the psychology of people, how they act inside a virtual space as such. And when I say virtual space, I don't mean less significant space than the space we are now here. And for me, I wouldn't change anything because I think that it shows a certain space and time, and there are some kind of artifacts that want to portray the thing. The same goes to Prince of Persia. Yeah, there were problems, but it shows a lot about what was happening at that moment and how were the narratives formed inside the game. So that's about it.
Well, it's hard to pick one game, especially when you play so much, and does it have to be a video game or like a game in general?
That's so good
Well,
question.
if you want to name some board game or anything that
Yeah,
you play.
because like, if it's a video game, it's probably one of the Pokemon games, because like we played those like hundreds of times, thousands of hours into most of them. It's probably Pokemon Platinum, but game overall, I would have to say it's gotta be one of the trading card games I play. Like I play a lot of trading card games, I play a lot of board games, and it's probably gonna be Magic the Gathering, even though the game hasn't been that satisfying or like perfect in the last X years. It's still like comfort food that I've grown up with and been playing since I know, since I've been able to like identify myself as a person, I guess. So like if I formed alongside it, so it's like a big part of my life. So I guess that's it, Magic the Gathering.
Okay, so for me, I agree. It's really hard to like pick one game because, especially as a streamer, like I play so many games, and like I don't know, I really like Minecraft. I really like RuneScape. I've been introduced to RuneScape like recently, and I fell in love with it. But one game that I keep coming back to is Heroes of Might and Magic 3. It's a game I started playing as a teen or a pre-teen. And I had a phase of my life where I would like come back home from school and I would just like sit in front of my PC and play Heroes and everything was great. I loved it. So I started playing it recently again on stream and it's still as good as it was. And I think I would pick Heroes as my favorite game ever. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, I like my favorite genre would be MMORPGs, but my favorite game is not an MMORPG. I think my favorite game would be one of the three, which depends on how I look at the, like, I don't know, at my situation. If I'm feeling nostalgic, I'd say Digimon World 2003, because that is one of the games that I, as a kid, invested unimaginable amounts of time and progressed more than like I ever progressed in any game. But like for me, that was like an experience where back then we didn't have the internet. We had to guess what's happening. We did have like the game manual that comes with the game, but I considered that cheating, so I didn't want any of that. So I just wanted to learn as we go, and that was a cool like learning experience. But one of the games that like influenced me a lot was Fable: The Lost Chapters, because that is a game that as a kid, like, oh, you can be evil and you can be good, and I was like, oh, I can do anything I want in this fantasy role-playing magic slinging world. And yes, I can be evil. And I went into the game like, yeah, I'm gonna be an evil wizard. And I'm like there, and like there's just an option like, do I want to like insult this person, or do I want to beat it up? Or I'll feel bad if I do that. And I was like, okay, no, like, I won't do this. Like that's kind of, but I'm gonna like fight people. I'm gonna steal. It's gonna be great. And then like, oh, but like if I kill this person, I'm gonna feel bad. I was like, I ended up being like the most good character you can be in that game. And I was, yeah, I don't know, like, doing mean stuff isn't even fun in the game, really. And I played that game probably, I replayed that game more than any other game probably, even though I don't have as much game time as in some. I think I played the game through at least 4 times. 3 times as evil, 1 time as good, and then the remake I replayed twice, once again as good, and once as good on like some super hardcore difficulty or something like that. So like those 2 would be my favorites, even though like it would be hard to pick which one of them, and also counting in that like Skyrim is the game I played the most of that is not an MMO that I still like. So yeah, I don't know. I personally change games often. That's why I'm a variety streamer, but that's why I can't pick a fully favorite game. I have like, I guess a top 2 or top 3, however I look at it. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well, you got me the exact answers I thought that you would give. I'm sure a lot of philosophy students here can relate to this. Whenever someone asks you who's your favorite philosopher, and you have an exact prepared answer to that question, that's a red flag. Maybe philosophy is not for you.
Red flag, where?
So yeah, it's I get that it's really hard to pick one game, especially when you have such a variety of video games and board games and any other game that you play. Well, since you can't pick some video game that you would name as your favorite video game, can you maybe tell? Is there any fictional world, any world of any video game that you have ever played that you would like to live in, that you would maybe like that it is that it is a real world? It can be also. I'm glad that you asked me. Is it specifically a question for video games or board games are involved? Any fictional world that you have ever played?
I've thought about this way before, several times over, and I realized a lot of these worlds actually suck if you're just a commoner and aren't demigods, the chosen one, a super like high tier or high level character, or a raid boss or some kind of super villain. So I actually, after thinking about a lot of it, actually realized that the Elder Scrolls universe, or Tamriel, is peaceful during some of its eras for regular folk, but depending which nationality you are. But I think it's the safest pick, as if hero or not hero, I think you could actually survive there and still actually progress to the system there, because the lore there is complex, but yeah, kind of non-chosen ones can still learn magic, and a lot of the, I don't know how to call them, not exactly world-ending events, but all of the catastrophic events are mostly stopped or minimalized. But yeah, I actually didn't find a real solution to like that for years. Like, I don't know which world is actually fine. So yeah, that would be my answer.
I actually agree with Sam. I thought about this a lot as well. But like as a kid, I really liked the universe of Warcraft 3 specifically, because it was so cool to me to have like druids and shapeshifters and like elves and stuff. But now when I think about it and how much violence was there and how brutal the world was, I don't know which world to pick, honestly.
Well, like, I mean, Pokemon is an easy answer because it's just like it's like a world where it's just like this one, only everything's always fine. The bad guys just like appear and bother like a small region of the world for a bit. Somebody beats them up and they go away. But like, actually, I don't know, I kind of like my life right now, so I would say The Sims, because it's the same, only everything's like dumped down to its core components. So like, to be good at a job, you just need to like do A, B, and C, and boom, you go up a stage. You need money, just type in a cheat code. Like everything's like just real life, only easier. So I guess The Sims, probably 3 because it has like the pyramids and stuff. So I can go to Egypt.
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't go to any of the games because I think I went to the games because when you play a game, you always play through the surrogate other, like the person that you are immersing in, which can be a person that is similar to you, or you make them like you said, you want him to be good because you're good. But also there are characters that you can get involved because of their story and think as the story as yours. And in the world, you have certain things like cheat codes, but you have certain things that function in a certain way. I don't know if I would be happy if there were some like guys that I come to and ask like a question and they say, I took an arrow in the knee, and then I come to another person, he says, took an arrow in the knee, and then go to the third person. I think I would just stay in my world and still experience the world as it is. As such, I would rather like to experience the person who made the world because I like the way that narrative is formed, which I also said, and exploring through the eye of the person, like the surrogate that was put inside the game. And that's the only way you can function in a game, as a surrogate that has certain amounts of freedom, certain, like you cannot, if you play GTA, you cannot go to the moon, like you have like ceiling, glass ceiling, which you also have in a way in real life at different type. But yeah, I wouldn't go. I like the way it is. I like the way you can explore it and still form an experience that is similar to the one for some people almost the same as real life experience, which is it's real life experience.
And do you have at least some fictional character that you would like to meet in person, or that you have ever idealized, or maybe wanted to be more like them? Because I've just started, it doesn't have to be a video game, that can be applied to any question that will follow. Because I've only just started playing Magic the Gathering, and I already have a favorite character, Bruno, you know that. So I feel like when you've been playing for such a long time as you guys have been, I have a feeling that I would have like 1,000 favorite fictional characters. I wouldn't be able to pick just one and say, I want to be like her, or I want to be like him.
Yeah, no. I wouldn't, because they the same thing, they function in a certain context. I meet them in a certain context, which is the world that was given to me also by the people that did the game, that made the virtual space. But if you took them away from that virtual space, they don't function as they do. So in a way, I think I met them through the immersion, but I met them through a story. The only thing that I would like to meet is the person behind them, the person who had, in a way, the story, the way how they formed the story, or how they formed the character, and how are they involved in the building of a character, but not the character as such, because the character is just some kind of just part of their imagination, or a part of their living life, or something like that, that helped them form it, but it as such is distant from the reality.
And now for something completely different. So since I'm here to share my dreams with you, I would love to meet Kermit the Frog. He's like one of the best characters of all time. He's been a role model for me my whole life. He's like a funny guy who can do whatever he wants, and it always works out. He's like he's as they call Donkey Kong. He's the leader of the bunch, and we all know him well. And he's just like he's a comedian that's also like very vulnerable, and not everything goes the way he plans, but he always like bounces back. And I don't know, I'm a huge Muppets fan since I was a kid, and like the older I get, the more I appreciate the messages and the way they portray the world, and especially like in that, I would say, entertainer space, because that's like what I feel is where I want to be, and also that's like what they show without just like idealizing it, because it's all like full of I don't know, like mess ups and weird situations, but they always like turn it in a positive light, and in like a educative way, I guess. So yeah, Kermit the Frog, please, if you're watching this.
Okay, so for me, I have a lot of like fictional characters that I really like, because I also like watch cartoons and anime and all kinds of media. So there's like a list, but for like, since this conversation is like more about video games, I think I would pick Ada Wong from Resident Evil, because I always thought she was really cool. She's like a female hero, let's call it like that, or like I don't know how to call it. I just love her. I even kind of took her name because I present myself as Ada. Like, it's not my birth name, but a lot of people call me Ada. So yeah, she would be my pick for this.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, I don't know, like, I don't think I meet most of my favorites. I have a lot of favorites, but most of my favorites are kind of villains. So, and literally kind of villains, or good characters turn villain, or villains redeemed, depends which of them. But I think my top favorite character that really wasn't, in gaming at least, I don't know if I pick everything, something else from someone else, but in gaming it would have to be Prince Arthas from World of Warcraft, because it's a character that I followed since I was like 12, 11 when I played Warcraft 3, and then he turns evil and everything switches and like, I don't know, like the character was so important to me as his story was portrayed so well in Warcraft 3 and Frozen Throne, that suddenly when I played World of Warcraft and I jumped into the Wrath of the Lich King expansion as Arthas becomes the Lich King, that was like just, wow, I'm playing on the main thing, like with the main enemy that is my favorite character, and this is like my goal. My goal is to defeat my favorite character. And I like the character so much because he was basically this absolutely perfect warrior, paladin, loved his family, loved his kingdom. He was great at everything, nothing could possibly go wrong, until the choice came to him where he had the option to either let an infected city just stay like that and let the people slowly die from a plague and get resurrected as undead, or start intervening immediately and start killing the people because they're already basically dead or worse. And that is where like I was like, wow, damn, this is a tough choice. And I guess I don't get to make the choice, he made the choice, but for me that was like, wow, that's kind of wild. And his story just got better until a few months ago, which we will completely ignore because Blizzard completely ruined the character and everything. But that, I guess, happens. They just retconned some of the, I wouldn't say reasons why he did stuff, but they changed some of the reasons he was, like, it basically wasn't him doing it, he was forced into it, even though we kinda knew some of the stuff. But yeah, that's another hour-long video we could make about that. But yeah, I think Arthas would be my definite top. He's basically hero turned villain, and not fully by his will, but then again, he saw that he was doing good. He thought he was saving his kingdom and the world, because he knew something we as players technically didn't know until a few years back, and that was like 15 years ago. So yeah, I'd pick him as my top.
So he intervened and started killing, or?
He intervened, started cleansing the city, chased down the evil bad guys until he became one of the evil bad guys, turning people into a bit.
Okay, so now that we've established some of your gaming preferences, I really wonder, how is the gaming experience different from your streaming and gaming experience? What got you into streaming, and what actually motivates you to keep streaming?
I talk a lot while I play usually, either to like someone around me or in general to myself, and that was just how I started like doing early YouTube. But after that, like after I stopped that because of like work and college and stuff, I realized like here and there I can just stream on Facebook, and I stream some Hearthstone pack openings, some Overwatch games. I modded Skyrim to look really ugly, and I played that for a few hours. I just wanted to play with the lowest possible textures and resolutions, and it was an experience definitely. And like after doing that, I realized, no, I could do this like for other games that I actually would make look good instead of make look ugly, or not just Overwatch, which is kind of running out of its time. But like then I realized, yeah, I don't have a PC for that, so I started collecting to get like a better PC, up my PC, and realized, yeah, it's time to go. So I made my Twitch channel and started slowly just playing some of the games I liked, even though the main goal was to stream Cyberpunk on the release day. That was my main inspiration. I really wanted to stream Cyberpunk 2077 when it released, and I'm not sure if it was a disappointment yet. I like the game, but it has its issues still. But yeah, that was basically the chain that went to me streaming. But what's different from me streaming and playing regular games, it is actually harder to decide and play a game off stream. Because when I start playing a game off stream, I feel like this could be content. Like I could be, instead of like randomly ranting to myself, I could be ranting to the stream. Wow, instead of like completely disliking this just for myself, I could be completely disliking it. And then like that just realized, yeah, I guess I'll play some chill stuff that I will definitely like, that is slower on the side, but while, keeping the better games or more interesting games for the streams and for content that I want to create. But yeah, that's basically as it is. Here you go.
Thank you. Okay, so I kind of always wanted to make like some kind of media to post online, like YouTube or like any kind of playing games online, so streaming games that I play, whatever. And I started, I think, I don't really remember, I think it was like 2013, posting random meme compilations and really random stuff on YouTube. And like almost, I think it was like 5 or 4 years after that I met Sand, and after that StoneAgeHero, and somehow he was streaming when I met him, and he was starting streaming when we already were friends. So they kind of dragged me into the world of Twitch. I didn't know Twitch existed. I did watch like PewDiePie and like foreign streamers or gamers play games on YouTube, but I didn't know about Twitch. And I was like, okay, this looks really cool. I would like to try this. So I made my channel, and first I was like streaming drawing because I like to draw. And later on it like turned into me playing games and like talking to people while playing games. But like what keeps me streaming, like right now I only play games on stream because I don't see point in playing games without like having someone talk to me. I kind of became addicted to streaming, not gonna lie. It's really fun for me. It makes me happy to have people who will talk to me while I like do something in a game, who will give me tips, who will like, I don't know, comment a game with me. So yeah, I enjoy it.
I started streaming, I think like 2012 or 2013 when Twitch was like first popping off with Dota 2, and I streamed like Magic the Gathering online for friends because I played a lot of Magic at that time. So I just streamed like drafts and things, so we can like, so they can see my plays and then we can like talk about them later and things like that. So more of like an archival thing, less about other people. And I did that for like a couple of months. My PC was really banged up and not really good at the time, so I couldn't even do much else. And I stopped, like hard stopped at some point, and picked it back up in 2018 when I decided that I want to have my own emotes on Twitch because I watched a lot of Twitch. I wanted to have my own set of emotes that I can use in other people's channels. And the only way to get an emote slot on the platform is to become an affiliate, to stream enough, to get enough followers, get enough viewers. So you can just like be in the top, I think it's like 10% or something, that get emotes, that get to have subscribers, get to like earn from Twitch. So I set myself a goal. First part of that was getting a better PC. I worked for 4 months so I can buy a new PC, a camera, a mic, and everything like that. And then I put a 1 month timer. I said if I don't become affiliate in 1 month, I'm just gonna quit. I want the emotes, that's why I'm doing all of this. That was like my goal. And I streamed every day at least 2 to 5 hours for 31 days. Got affiliate, put up my 5 emotes. I was expecting only 1 emote slot, but in the month I got a lot of subscribers and things, so I got 5 emote slots. And then I streamed for like 2 or 3 months, and then I stopped again because I got a new job, and stopped for like almost 6 months. And then I was like, I really miss streaming. I really miss having a platform where I can like do my dumb ideas, my comedy bits, my whatever I think of, And also, when I don't have anything, I can just play games and talk to people and still be surrounded by others. And I also lost a job in the meantime, so I was like, okay, I have more time now. I'm gonna set myself a goal. I'm gonna stream every workday for a year. So like I streamed for a year, 5 times a week, 4 hours a day. That went great in my opinion. Had a lot of really fun memories from that. Then it turned into 2 years, so I streamed 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, I think like 2 years and 2 months in sequence. Then I got a new job. That sequence kind of broke. For the first couple of months, I streamed a few times a week. Now I'm on a hiatus for like, now it's gonna be 2 months. But next year, I'm gonna like put together a schedule that's not all in or nothing, and it's gonna actually be like something worthwhile. But what keeps me there is just the freedom. Like you can do whatever you want, and still people. If you find people who enjoy who you are, people will enjoy whatever you do. And I can like do a fake stand-up where I just read like one-liner jokes and move my camera around the screen and click laugh tracks for 5 minutes after that. People are gonna love it, so I guess just have fun.
So you would say that it's about building a good community?
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Even if you don't have a community, the community will build itself if you just promote like positive values. So it's just fun. Just start streaming, guys. With your university, with your jobs, philosophy, you can read that while streaming. So just have fun, guys.
I started streaming. Like I talk a lot by myself while playing games, and it started because it started for me as a social experience. I always missed the social part of playing games, and there was like a period where I didn't play so much games, and I always wished for playing games, and I don't have so many friends that play games, and I was like, okay, I got a mic for my birthday, a year and a half ago. Oh no, it's a year ago. Okay, and I totally forgot. So I got the mic, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start. I never watched Twitch before. I didn't know how it functions. I didn't know anything. I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk to myself, and I'm gonna play games. And probably the first several months, I'm gonna just talk to myself, which is fine. Like 1 viewer, maybe 2 or something like that. But it started to become fun. I did like promote on Reddit, things like that, and some people came, and I gathered like a community that I can play games with, which was like my first thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to get back having the social experience, because we started it as a social experience, and it's turned really individual during the part where you have other things to do, where you have to go to your job, where you have to, I don't know, go to school, or a lot of people wouldn't play games with you anymore. There was really hard to have that time, and I just longed for the feeling of having someone talking about the game while playing the game. That's about it.
Have you ever struggled with building that community? More specifically, what do you think about Croatian streaming community or culture in general? Do you think that streaming would be a much easier, let's say job if you weren't from Croatia, but for example from USA?
There is much more people that speak English on the Twitch platform, or Spanish or Russian, or things like that. But the thing is, it depends what type of community you want. So you can have like a smaller community that will be always at every stream giving donations, subbing, and playing games with you, and you can like meet them on meetups. Or you can go and try to be like a large community. Well, some of them will be really invested, a lot of them will be like potentially invested, but not so much. So it really depends on the streamer how they want to have a community. Like for me, I'm happy with the community I have. Like it's not a big one, but I know that if I come and if I turn on the camera, there will always be like those guys or girls or I don't know those people. But yeah, but yeah, that's the thing that I like drive to build like kind of community that's smaller but similar more to me and chill, calm to talk to, and yeah. But like I tried putting like videos on TikTok, which was like, okay, I'm gonna build a bigger community. And I like put it on TikTok, and it just got flooded with a lot of people that were in the same interest, that were like the same group of people that came usually on my streams. And a lot of the people that follow me send me a message, like a whisper that you can send on Twitch, and I was like, okay, like I don't feel like it's our space anymore. They felt like it was just polluted in a way by people who are not so invested in their in the community, but just in watching me and just talking random things and cluttering the chat.
I think being from Croatia, the only like real downside we have is like, especially when I started streaming, was like the internet. Like currently, we can all get like a stable, fast internet connection, but like 4 or 5 years ago, I had to like jump through a lot of hoops to get like fiber optic cables to my apartment so I can actually start streaming the way I wanted to stream. And like infrastructure in general, like payment structure, taxes, all that jazz, it's all like really not user friendly in our country. But overall, like I think I have the same, like, I wouldn't say chances, but like the same ceiling of like viewership or whatever as someone from Germany, someone from France, or whatever, like higher tier country, if we would call it, have. So I don't think Croatia comes like
the tax. Sorry, I remember the tax is the problem. Okay,
yeah, taxes are like weird, but overall, I think it all depends on like your schedule as well. Just like be mindful of your time zones. Try to fit it somewhere where most of the world is awake. So like you don't stream when the most active continents are sleeping. Like that's just bad business. Like I used to do that for months, and then I noticed that if I move my stream a few hours later or earlier, I get different people and like different engagement. But yeah, that's about it. Just like be mindful of where you are and use the most you can to your advantage, I guess.
Wait, if you earn through Twitch, do you have to pay taxes in Croatia or?
Depending on the amount and depending on like other things, because there are more revenue sources on Twitch. Like that's not just like direct payment. So yeah, it's really complex and it gets more complex by the day. So enjoy the money you get. That's about it. If you get it.
Okay, in my opinion, I think that being from a smaller country, or like specifically Croatia, is actually a plus here, because we are a much smaller community than like the USA or something, and most of us know each other and are going to support each other, and like we have meetups here and like we can hang out. We basically all know each other. So, and like you can like put tags in Twitch, right? And if you put your tag as Croatian, a lot of people will look for you because they're Croatian and they want Croatian streamers, and they will find you. They will be like, oh, you're from Croatia, that's so cool. So yeah, I think that's actually a good thing to have like a, let's call it smaller community, but everyone is like more tight-knit or something like that. Yeah.
Yay, Croatia.
Thank you. But yeah, tax evasion. Yeah, I think in Croatia we have several setbacks. As Tony said, definitely the internet is a huge issue because if you're not in the center parts of the main cities or in Zagreb in like this 70% area that is actually well covered with fiber optics, you don't even have internet that can probably play games without significant lag and let alone like stream, because we actually have the issue where like a lot of our upload speeds are really sad. In some countries like Romania, their uploads are often even higher than downloads, while we usually have much lower uploads, even 10 times less. So we have that setback from most countries, but I think the main thing, as like Neo mentioned, we do have the Croatian tag, and that's great. But if you're like speaking English and you don't switch to Croatian when someone says bok on the stream or something, when they greet you in Croatian, like I usually stick to English because I get extremely confused when I have to switch languages. And then they usually just keep talking in Croatian until they either accept it's on English and stay, or they leave. And that's my problem, I guess, but you know, that's a thing. And I think it's an advantage if you actually stream on Croatian. You're gonna get a lot of people from nearby countries that are more likely to actually stay, just as they said, as everyone here said, basically that like just because you know you're one of us, and that's an advantage. But yeah, tax, that's something that like if you actually are there for the money, or if the money is actually something you use to support yourself, or even just as like pocket change, there's several layers of issues you have to go through to get it, because some of the payments on Twitch are already reduced by the time they get to your total money pool, and then after that, after being reduced by Amazon itself, it is reduced by an additional 30% almost because of the tax, which is some sort of international tax. And then if you cross a certain amount in Croatia, you actually do have to pay taxes. And it's up to you if you will actually do it. You can actually commit tax evasion, but and supposedly it's not that common that you will be caught, but you should not be doing it, as if you are, it's kind of serious. Yeah, I mean, I think the numbers are pretty high. I think they actually moved that up to like at least 10K. I don't know exactly, but to actually be able to like survive off Twitch here, it is pretty difficult because there's so many layers the money goes through before it gets to you. At least most of them, not all of it. There's exceptions and there's ways to handle that. But yeah, I think we do have some setbacks and some advantages, but I don't think that just if I did the content the way I did it now, and I was from the US, I don't think it would have been any better or more relevant or anything. It just, I could just use the US tag, which would potentially attract more people who just search for the US tag. And I think that's the only thing, and I don't think it's relevant enough. So it's mostly about the content you do and the way you promote your content, because Twitch is not a good platform to promote yourself on. It is the discoverability of streamers is really low, so you actually have to do like TikToks and YouTube and stuff like that. And I only did like 4 or maybe 3 actually videos since I started streaming. Every time I did a video, I actually got several new followers and a few new viewers. And like, oh, that's good. Like, I only spent like half an hour doing this useful video, and it's great. And I don't know why I didn't do more. I don't know why I don't do more now. But hey.
Disclaimer: we do not promote tax evasion.
No,
Please don't do that. Well, those are really optimistic and positive answers. Actually, I thought it's before that you answered me. I thought that it's much harder to be a streamer in Croatia, but I'm glad that you're very satisfied with the streaming culture here. Earlier today we had a plenary lecture of our professor, Matea, and he mentioned some of the ethical aspects of playing and video games. So a more serious question for all of you. Do you think that video games promote violence among children and adolescents who play them? And on the other hand, can they promote something useful, something good, something that is generally accepted in society as good, positive behavior. Can you give me some examples of both cases?
I think video games, as they are, some do have cases where the games want you to be violent in-game, but I think no developer actually intends that to be a lecture on how you should behave, and most violent games, factions, missions, or whatever element of the game is there either to show you something, to show the other side, prove that it's wrong, or as satire, or something like that. Depends on the situation. I think they don't cause violence, but violent people will be violent, and it probably won't change. I think in a lot of situations you can see that in games that are player versus player, and they're open world player versus player, where you don't have a choice if you will be attacked. Like the PvP tag is always up. You can be attacked at any point, and when there's either different factions or just anyone can attack you, you can see how players behave. I think one of the examples is like in-game examples is like Black Desert Online, where after you pass a certain point, if you're not in a city, any player can attack you at any point. And it's up to you if you want to defend yourself. And there, I think a majority of people will actually defend. But that's only in-game, and I don't think most of those people would, I don't know, like push someone in a grocery store over the last item in the aisle, as they would attack me in game for stealing their kills or taking loot on the side and stuff like that. And I think that people are influenced by games, but I don't think that the intention in most cases, the intention of the people who are actually doing the main stuff is because of games. A lot of people who committed some recent stuff have used games as some sort of like cover for doing it, and a lot of news sources actually use games as like an excuse, especially the notorious Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 No Russian mission, which has been banned in some countries, changed in others, and stuff like that. And a lot of people actually, a lot of news sources use that as like, oh, this person did this, and they were inspired by this. And I think a lot of games do promote good stuff. I personally learned a lot about like logic circles in Minecraft. I discovered redstone, which basically functions as like true or false, and I played around with that, and I was, wow, that's pretty interesting, but like, I don't know what this is. And like that was like 2011, I was still in high school, and during that year, well, the next high school year, I got like a subject which was industrial computers, and I was like listening to the teacher. I don't know what she was talking. I didn't understand anything, and I was like looking at the textbook, and I don't know. And then she gave us this program which we will actually, do work on. We have to do the assignments by slotting in these thingies, and they perform the actions. And we actually had like a console next to us that the program is uploaded to, and when we turn the switch on, it should do the thing. And like when I was piecing together the first one, I felt it did it wrong, because it was not how the teacher like showed it later, but it worked. And I was like, why did I think of this? And I realized, oh, this is like Minecraft, but I don't have to fight for these blocks. I can just place the block here, and it's doing the thing. And then I guess I aced this whole like I like got an A, 5, whatever, in this whole like class just because I played Minecraft, and because I never had to study for that, because it was all logic for me that I learned there. So I guess that's like an educational example. But again, back to the morality part, I think a lot of games also show like if player will be let's say defensive of others in game and stuff like that. I think that's where most people show their true nature. Because in, for instance, World of Warcraft, it's mostly faction versus faction. You have one side fighting against the other. PvP is mostly optional. You can turn on the flag if you want bonus XP, but before it was, if you were on a PvP server, anyone can attack you, or you could turn on flag if you just felt like, I don't know, being challenged at some point. And there were several cases where I would have PvP up, you would pass a much higher level enemy. He could probably kill you in one shot, but it just doesn't. And like might be like a 2-minute story, but one of my personal moments in World of Warcraft was I was doing this like really important boss for some, I don't know, reputation system, and it was really difficult. I almost lost. Well, I would have lost if I didn't run away. I stood on the side and healed up. I switched to, as I was a druid, into a cat form, which allows me to stay invisible for a while. And I watched this enemy faction paladin just fly in, and she was just there like, oh shit, I could jump her. Like, no, I'll wait for her to engage the boss. She can't do this on her own, and then throw her. And she engages the boss, starts losing health, she's on half, and that's my moment. But I was like, why would I do this? Wait, no, that's not me. And I shift to the boss, I attack the boss, taunt it away from her, so she can escape, heal herself up. In return, we defeated the boss. I didn't get the reward because she was the one to engage it. And after that, she sits and waits for the boss to return so she can help me. And if I didn't do that, and I didn't get like an ally, which was actually an enemy in that moment, I probably would have waited for like a day or like till the end of the day for my friends to actually get online. So I think, in that way you can show and you can see when people are actually nice. I think in games that have open world PvP, you can see most people's intentions, but they do not translate necessarily to real life. I don't think if I actually attacked that person at that point, I would commit something like that in real life. But yeah, that's it.
I agree with everything that Sam has said. So for the question if video games promote violence, no, I definitely think they don't. People have always been violent. Like, it's been movies before. Movies have been like claimed to promote violence if there's violence in the movies, but by that logic, all of us would like be killing each other because there's a lot of violent media. So I think that people who want to be violent will just find an excuse in video games if they even want to blame them on violence, and normal people will be normal people. I don't know. But as Sam has also said, like, I think video games can promote a lot of good stuff, like for example, online video games where you can meet people, where you can team up with others, where you can like make friends, or like video games that promote logic and logical thinking. I think they can actually be really good for like young people and children to learn about stuff and to help them to just like, if they are not really good with making friends in real life, they can turn to video games and make friends there. So I don't think there's, like, unless you sit in front of the computer for the entire day and do nothing else, I think you're good. I don't think there's any ethical negative questions when it comes to video games.
I mean, the violence in video games idea has been like propagated by the American media since like the 80s, since there were arcades, because like it's just a new thing that like, it's not nice to say, but old people can latch onto, because it's easier to like dog on something that you don't understand than to like actually find some evidence on something that you have to, since you understand it, you actually have to then go deeper in it and find like a defensible solution, I guess. If you just say, oh, that's like a beeble booble, and people don't know what that is, they will just take your word for it and take it that it's bad. But there were like multiple studies done in the last 20 years or so, like since the early 2000s, that proved that the correlation between the media you ingest and the output of violence, especially in teens, in the UK and like in the US, aren't like correlated at all, because teens who had like a higher violence rating, there are some ratings that I don't know the names of them, I forgot, but because I read that like a while ago, but the violence rating from before and after continually consuming violent media was usually unchanged, or like changed minimally. In like the change was so small that it could have been caused by like just mood swings or like different outside interference, I would say. So I think that question is just like a strong buzzword that like everybody wants to like know, oh, are those kids killing others because they played a video game? But it's just like dumb.
It's really hard to find a correlation between violence and video games.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of outside factors that can and inside factors that can really affect someone's decision to go and be violent or start killing people. And
yeah, and people who hurt other people, who make the decision to be violent, they would make that decision usually, like especially if we're talking about like morality and ethical questions, like people who do bad stuff usually would come to that conclusion following some other train of thought in another time. At least that's the school of thinking I'm in, because I don't know. I like to believe in the good of people, so just by the nature of that, I have to believe in the bad of people as well. So I think that's how it goes. And like, if it wasn't video games, it would be movies. If it wasn't movies, it would be music. Like, music was just 10 years before video games, it was movies. 10 years before that, it was the Beatles and Black Sabbath. 10 years before that, it was like pulp novels. So I guess like wall paintings were promoting violence at some point as well. Frescoes, I guess. So yeah, I think that's just like a buzzword question that doesn't need even. I give it too much time.
There's always something to criticize.
Yeah.
I would say, like, as video games can promote good things and change, change or a change in a person, they can promote violence. They cannot make you violent, though. I think that's like the difference, because I tried, I read the questions and I was like, okay, I'm trying to find a game that was made to promote violence. I didn't find the game. Mostly there were like studies that were made in the last couple of years that were saying, okay, there's no correlation with killing or being violent with video games, but there probably is in some kind of dark deep web onion, a type of game that was made to promote violence. But I don't know about it. Like, in a way that you had, I don't know, for instance, you're a kid and you have been given that game, and the game is like you do something, somebody does something good to you, and then you have to do something bad to them because I don't know how to explain. But the thing is that maybe the morals will shift in the game in a way that maybe it can promote violence. But the question is how it will influence, because a lot of us distinguish video games from real life, most of us, as I can say, and you have different logic structures that are based on the real life, but they're function in the other world. And I would just like shift the conversation into a good example. Okay, into like good examples, because I don't want to dwell on the negative one, because it's mostly speaking about like the negative one. So there is a game that's called Never Alone, that was made by the Inupiat community in Alaska. That was basically made in a way to efficiently store and teach kids their tradition, which is mostly a non-material tradition. And they interpreted the whole, like a story about a kid that was lost in a never-ending storm, together with the with the community. So you had like the gaming, how do you call developers. Yeah, you had like the developers. Anyway. Communicating with the community of Inupiati that wanted to share their knowledge to their kids, and also to the diaspora and the ones who moved from Alaska. And it showed that it has a really good influence to teach things, to teach also ethics, to teach a story of a community that was in a way drifting away because the non-material, non-tangible heritage is really, really hard to safeguard, and I think video games have been proven to show the way, and yes, I will stop to be stop now. I just want to share one another thing. There was a game that's called Dragon Cancer or something like that. It's a pretty interesting game. It's got what?
That's Dragon Cancer.
And that's Dragon Cancer. It's about a woman and a man who had a kid who had terminal cancer, and the father made like the game so people who to cope with his own death, with the death of the child, and the whole narrative of how it was happening and how they were saying goodbye to it, in a way also to spread awareness of cancer and also to help other people who are in the same situation to overcome the sadness.
Yeah, that's a great example. Okay, thank you so much for all your answers. I hope all of you were as excited as I was while listening to your answers. Some technical info. We are meeting in 2 hours at SPAM, so I hope we will see you there. As well as tomorrow our program will be located at the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. And once again, big thanks to our streamers who agreed to have this interview. And also I invite you all to follow them on Instagram, on their Twitch accounts, and see what they're doing.